And I think it becomes more explicit. Now, the one I'm about to show you next, because I want to show you an example of what I mean by strategic debt, right? And this is going to give you, see, like a spreadsheet kind of thing here to illustrate what I mean. Here's some assumptions in the model I'm about to show. Assume that it costs us $100K every month for development work. All right. Now, our goal is to ship this product in 10 months. That's what we've been told. You have to get the product into the market in 10 months with all the must-have features in that product. Let's also agree that's totally unreasonable. Not without taking on technical debt, right? It'd be impossible to get this done in 10 months. We, the technical people, believe it's just not possible to do that. And by the way, dropping must-have features, if they are must-have features, by definition, they cannot be dropped. Right? Okay, so that's our scenario. Let's lay this out for a moment. There's our projected velocity. This is our actual velocity. By our actual velocity, we're going to need 13 months to get it done. And have minimal technical debt at 13 months. So first thing we have to ask is this. I need to know what's the cost of delay if it takes 13 months versus 10. Meaning, if you don't have the product until 13, go to your sales force. Hey guys, you're not going to get the product until the end of month 13 as opposed to the end of month 10. What's the hit? Every month we don't have that product costs us $150,000 in lost revenue. We just won't get the revenue. Okay? These are the assumptions I'm making in the model right now. All right. Everybody clear so far? Because I'm going to run the numbers. What part is unclear?
So the blue line before it goes down is everyone's doing TDD, everyone's doing continuous integration, everyone's doing pair programming, perfectly beautiful, readable code. And then they stop doing it and they increase their speed.
Yeah, or in this picture, imagine we have no solid blue line. We're just at the very beginning and we're making the statement of, it has to be done in 10. And as we, the development team, look at it and say, not practical, this is going to be a 13-month development effort. If that helps better contextualize this. So they want it in 10. We think it's going to take 13. If we get it done in 10, we will take on technical debt in order to do it. We will cut corners to get it done. Pretty good? All right. Let's do a little bit of math. And I'll show you why I think a lot of senior management teams derail at this point. All right, so remember it was $100K a month in either case. So we have two scenarios. Avoid the debt. Avoid the debt means 13 months. Take 13 months and we don't take on the debt, or take on the debt, get it done in 10 months. Okay, those are the two columns. Each time costs the same amount per month to develop. Obviously, in the avoid the debt case, it takes 13 months, and they take on the debt, we get it done in 10. So 1.3 million is what would get spent, it's $100K a month in a 13-month case, and it would only be 1 million in a 10-month case. All right. So now we're going to have a delay in shipping the product, right? Rather than shipping at the end of month 10, we're going to ship at the end of month 13, so there's a 3-month delay. We said it was $150K a month. We'd have the same delay here, but we're just not going to. We have the same cost of delay in both models, except we have no delay in the 10-month model, and we have a 3-month delay in the 13-month model. So we have $450K. So if you add it all up, right? Oh, and by the way, one other assumption. When asking the technical folks is, if I rush you and you get it done in 10 months, how long will it take you to pay back the debt? And you're saying 4 months. So let me contextualize that a little bit more. 1 month longer than if you had just let them go to 13 months. You don't get the 3 months for free, right? You still have to do the work that you didn't do, but there's an extra month on top of that to unwind the mess that we already put in. So we're arguing, you're saying as a development team would take 4 months to do it. So that's a $400K cost in order to do that. Now, if we sum the numbers up to this point, you'd look at it and if you stop there, senior management would say, take on the debt. Because take on the debt, I'm at 1.4 million of cost here. I have 1.75 million of cost there. So obviously, it's $375,000 better to just take on the debt. And so they do. But what they're not taking into account are the X, Y, and Z, right, that are in this chart. So X. There's a delay cost in repaying the debt. I have to wait. There's 4 months of time we have to spend. Some other project is being delayed for that period of time, right? We're not going, if for nothing else, for at least 1 month, longer than it would have been, right, had we finished at 13 months. We're actually delaying that project. That project has a cost to delay. Hey, Salesforce, when we delay that one, what's the cost of that?
Would you consider that opportunity cost?
Yeah, cost of delay in this case is opportunity cost for not having the product. The opportunity, this is, the one I gave here was lost sales. In your world, that opportunity cost might have been a loss in the ability to have a reduction in costs. If it was an internal system, like, oh, if we had that system, we could get our transaction cost down from $100 a transaction to $50 a transaction, but you don't have it, so it couldn't show up that way. You also have this. This is the big one, the lifetime interest payment on the debt. Your experience may be different than mine. Most companies are not nearly as good as they think they'll be at paying back the technical debt. So there's a cost for having that debt in there until you pay it back, and there's a lifetime cost of that. Meaning if you never choose to pay it back, you're paying interest payments on it every time someone goes into that code. Y could actually be very, very large. We're going to talk more about how we would do that kind of calculation. Right? And any other debt-related costs that I haven't represented in the model. I'm suggesting that when you add in X, Y, and Z to your 1.4 million, it's almost never the case that taking on the debt was the right thing to do. But a lot of companies will make the argument, yes, we talked about 2 examples where it was the right thing to do, right? You know, the derivatives system thing and the death before deployment, but those are anomalies for most of us. Get his hand up and we'll come over, please.
I think another challenge of our scenario here, assume
The microphone comes.
I think one scenario we already kind of implicitly assumed is that we're on target in our initial estimating. So we've already estimated that it's going to take 13 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What I see sometimes happen is we've estimated it's 13, we want to ship it at 10, but it actually end up being 16. So now it adds another variable there, which is it's not even 10 versus 13, it's now 10 versus 16.
Right on.
So at this point, this becomes, although from a numbers perspective,
So let's address that head on. I think it is almost never worth your effort to produce this picture. I think producing this picture will be a waste of your time. Why? There's only one time I ever considered taking on the strategic debt. It's obvious it's the right thing to do. I don't have to do any math at all to calculate this. Because if you have to do complex calculus to figure this out, you're doing the wrong thing. Don't take it on. Get his hand up. So we're working our way over towards you.
I was going to say one thing since the microphone was right here.
Yeah.
I think there's one more variable missing here, and that is if you can release something after 10 months, not wait for 13, you've actually gained 3 months of benefit,
Yeah.
which is not really reflected in the calculation.
Yeah, I mean, what is the value of being in the marketplace 3 months earlier than you were? So senior management's going to argue, what was the benefit of a company like, Apple shipping the first iPhone before some of us thought it was feature ready? I don't know, but I'm sure that number ends in a B, not an M. All right, so there's value in there. Right, please.
So my question was more towards the, he made 14 million in the first 3 months, and then you said they throw it
First
away.
hour.
First hour?
First
okay.
hour.
First hour, and then they throw it away after 3 months. Do they really throw it away, or does it just become someone else's problem down the line?
His idea was to retire it. At least that's what he told me he was going to do. Just retire the system because all the competitors rushed it for their Me Too products. So on the other hand.
Yep, next.
I'm from technical background, so these numbers are not easy for me. So who calculate these numbers? Who should, like a product owner or?
So product owner or management's going to own this spreadsheet, or they're going to have to ask you for some of the numbers, right? They won't know some of these numbers, like, well, how long do you estimate it's actually going to take you to get it done? They already told you they wanted a 10, right? That number they told you. The 13 was yours, right? And they know this number.
Right.
That's an easy number to calculate. I know my team, I know who's on it, I know the cost per sprint. If I do 2 sprints a month, I know my cost per development per month. That's easy. Some are easy, others are fantasy. As I said, I'm showing you what I see a lot of companies do, and I'm saying I think they're making a mistake. I think taking on the technical debt is almost always the wrong thing to do because, first of all, we're not very good at paying it back. So taking it on is probably a very bad idea. Please.
I'm just curious why this spreadsheet doesn't also show, like, if you release something into production and you're already realizing profits on it, and you released it 3 months earlier,
Mhm.
then it's really, that spreadsheet doesn't include it, or it does.
No, it doesn't, right? Because by releasing to the market earlier, you advance revenue forward, and money today is worth more than money tomorrow because money has a time value, right? So I'd rather have the $100 today than have $100 a year from now because I could go invest it or put it in the bank and get interest on it. So that's not factored in here, right? And again, this is the compelling reason why management's going to want to race it into the market. What they're not taking into account is the long-term total cost of ownership of that system when they start taking on the technical debt. And the assumption is, don't worry, we'll get in the market really quick. In the next release, you can take the time to pay it back until the next super important feature shows up in the next release, and you don't get the time to actually pay it back. I saw a bunch of hands go up back there.
It's also not taking into account, like, so how much debt are you taking on a month in this situation?
How much debt are you taking on a month? Well, you could argue until you release the product, right? If you really actually accrued anything, because you could kill it, right, before it never goes into
Because
production.
debt is how easy is it to work in the project? And in 10 months, it's going to be harder to work in the project than in 1 month.
Yes.
So you're taking on the debt and you're paying for the debt recovery.
Yes.
And so even if you're taking on, let's say, if you're taking on $10,000 worth of debt and your budget doesn't change, at the end of 10 months, you have $100,000 worth of debt and you're putting in $100,000 a month, that's everything. Like that's, you're no longer, you're flatlining at that point.
Yeah, if you're horizontal at that point, because we have so much debt that we can't actually do anything with this system.
But my point being that, like, as we get towards 10 months, you're already moving slower than you would have been, and this isn't in any way reflecting that.
So let me make very clear what I'm doing. I'm showing you a spreadsheet that I'm saying you should never put together. I'm saying it's not worth your effort to do this, right? I've already commented that you should almost never make the strategic choice to take on the debt because you'll never be able to fully quantify all the variables that are involved. The only time you do it is when it's so overwhelmingly compelling to take the debt on, like the example of the derivative system or the debt before deployment. In those cases, I don't need a spreadsheet to guide me here. I know exactly what the right thing to do is. I'm saying a lot of teams try to do this.
We also see an outdoor that people are releasing not at 10 months, but at 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you get to market faster is sort of irrelevant to technical debt. It's just how quickly are you releasing and how are you chopping up your features, which is fundamentally different from technical debt.
I would love it if we were able to put out the first release of our product 2 weeks into working on it. And if we had that kind of system, I'm all in.